All right, so at this time, I'll call to order the regularly scheduled committee meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, October 7th, 2020 at 7:02 p.m. Roll call, please, Clerk Moscow.
Trustee Kavey?
Here.
Trustee Crowley?
Here.
Trustee Gillis? Trustee Ivan?
Here.
Trustee Killility?
Here.
Trustee Kreis?
Here.
Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alright, at this time, I declare that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent because of the coronavirus pandemic. Is it still open?
Mayor, you have a quorum. Verified audio or visual confirmation.
Thank you, sir. Deputy Clerk PULASKI, was there any comment from the public?
Yes, actually, I have a number of things. Received an email from Jean Bartecki. She has like 4 things on here. She wanted to know why does it take close to 90 days for volunteers to receive reimbursement? As a volunteer, I submit receipts and it takes far too long to be paid. On occasion, I've had to resubmit the receipts, which is unacceptable.
If Janet receives the paperwork, she'll have it done in 2 weeks, so I'm not sure where the backlog is. Treasurer Britton, you got any input on?
You're muted. You're muted, Maggie.
Sorry, I turned it off. No, you're absolutely right, Mr. Mayor. When Janet gets it, she processes it. So somehow it's not making its way to Janet.
Trustee Ivan?
May I ask you a question?
Hold on. Trustee Ivan?
In this case, it was my fault. I misplaced the documents.
Trustee Ivan misplaced the documents and you'll...
I found it and submitted it to the treasurer as of today.
Okay, so typically this would be a 2 to 4 week maximum process. All right, very sorry about that, Jean.
Can I say about reimbursements?
Sure.
Is it required to be on the bills list for approval by the board?
Yes.
They are, okay. I was just wanted to double check.
Okay?
Yes.
Then she had a question regarding downtown businesses. When the old Nail Academy was torn down, why was the tile floor not removed as well? Then she wanted to know what's the status of the Honda building, Grade A's TV, and the Purple Doctor's office. Those buildings continue to decay and are eyesores in the heart of town.
Trustee Kreis, can you answer the one about the Nail Academy, Nail School? Is that's just what they don't take out the foundation?
Well, again, that demolition was performed. It was performed by the Cook County Sheriff at no charge for the South Suburban Land Bank. So we were grateful that they took the building down, and there's no asbestos. There was asbestos testing, but that's, I think we were lucky that it was done at no cost to the land bank. So that's the only information I have. They did not hire a demolition contractor.
They don't typically take out the foundation or the foot.
No, I don't believe they're equipped to do that.
But
Well, when the building ownership of the building was transferred from the village to the land bank and then they sold it to the new owner, was there no requirements timing wise of when they had to redevelop it or fix it or do something to it? So that could just sit there the way it looks into perpetuity?
I mean, he bought it. I knew he had some plans pre-COVID, and I've not spoken to him since he purchased the building. Don, do you have anything other than that?
No, I don't. At first I knew that the tiles were still there.
Me too.
I don't know. on future transactions with the land bank, can we put some sort of stipulations on some of these transactions that if they are going to be able to sell these properties at a pretty decently reduced rate, that the buyers have some type of requirement to, redevelop them or do something to them within an X amount of time?
That'd be between the land bank and the buyer.
If it's not code now, we can
But
enforce
wouldn't
it.
that also have to be between the village and the land bank, since we turn the title over to the property to them and they get it from us for free? Because they sell the property and they're the ones who keep the profit, not the village.
But bottom line, if it's not currently matching code or ordinances,
We can enforce it.
building department can enforce our codes and ordinances. So that's something we can look more into, Gene. What was the other things were the Honda building? I know that there's
Honda building,
still
Ray's TV, and Purple Doctor's Office.
Purple Doctor's Office has been cited, and there was work going on this week to try to get it up to code and in compliance. Honda building, I know that there's still an individual trying to work through the legal process to fully acquire it and redevelop it. Again, citations have been issued because of the boarded up window, and Ray Day and the old currency exchange, it's for sale. And again, if I hear this quite a bit, people say, why am I getting this? There's other places in town that look bad. Rest assured that they are being monitored and cited. There's not a lot more that the village can do at that time. It takes time to amass the information and the citations, and further down the road, there's other options that village can take, but we're just not at that point yet. But they are being cited for their lack of upkeep.
Okay, I have something else now. There are various trees and weeds around businesses and sidewalks in downtown district. Examples, Meinike's, DMC. Who is responsible for maintaining them? I understand certain businesses were given citations. What is the criteria for a business citation?
What you see, if it's again not in code or out of compliance with our codes and ordinances, they are spoken to, they are warned, they're cited, and some of those businesses that you're talking about, the building department is currently working on that specific issue with all of our businesses, not just select few. But again, it is being dealt with. It's just there's a process to the dealing with it, and of course the business owners are responsible for their property.
Okay. Then with the village green, the gazebo is in need of a deep cleaning. It needs to be power washed and scrubbed down, including the benches and railings. Will the electric be reconnected on the pillars on the east side of the green?
I wasn't aware that it was disconnected, but I will certainly forward this to Public Works and have them take care of it.
Okay. And then lastly, Alan had received a Facebook message from Mike Rosen to discuss changing the trick-or-treat hours to 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. when it falls on a weekend. This allows the children to be out in the daylight only and gives everyone a chance to enjoy lunch and dinner without the interruptions. Thanks for considering this suggestion.
I don't have an opinion either way. We just stuck with the normal hours that we always had. Is there anyone on the board that is emphatically in favor of moving the times? We still have time to get the word out. It doesn't mean kids will stop trick-or-treating at 5, but.
I would prefer to leave the hours as is. Because there are still parents that work during the day on Saturday. They can't get their kids out trick-or-treating at 1 and 5. I understand the residents' point of view. I totally do.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, I totally understand. But I think just for consistency, it's easier if we just leave the hours from 3 to 7.
Trustee Grace?
I would agree. I think we've done it forever, 3 to 7.
It's always been 3 to 7.
You change it, people are going to be confused, and there'll be a lot of people that won't be aware of it, and so I just think, yeah, we've done it this way, and people may be out a little bit earlier, and, nobody's gonna arrest the kids, right?
No. Okay, anything else? Vote it.
No, that's all I have.
Yeah, that's breathing.
Yeah, I can hear that. All right, then we will move on to trustee business, and if it pleases the board, I would like to have trustee Ivan go first so that our guest won't have to bear through our whole meeting.
Yeah, is our guest here?
Treasurer Britton is our guest here.
He is not, I'll let trustee Ivan explain.
Trustee Ivan.
All right. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep, yes.
I picked the wrong
Okay.
thing.
Let's see how do I start this out here. Alright, so the insurance stuff which is my first item on my agenda, I've just provided the insurance renewal docs for your reading pleasure, so you guys can get a advanced read on all the stuff that's associated with it and all the detail that's associated with it. And we're waiting on the insurance committee's recommendation for discussion and a vote. So I just provided that information, so that's being sent to the committee to you guys so that you would be aware of it. So we won't have any show and tell on the insurance at this point in time until the insurance committee has looked at it and made their recommendation. Okay?
But Aldo was supposed to at least be available to answer questions this evening.
Well, you can if you want, send us the questions and we'll forward it to Aldo. But I want to wait for the insurance committee's recommendation before we do any more explanation. I'm just doing this as a favor to the board to give them the same information so that they could read it and be prepared for the next committee meeting when we'll have the discussion.
So trustee Kreis, I can tell you, I actually talked to trustee Ivan and I talked to trustee Killelea. At our last insurance meeting, we did not have the most recent plan rates available for the insurance, for the 2 different insurance carriers. So Treasurer Britton is gonna set up another meeting.
Okay.
So that we can. I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. So I asked them if they really wanted to have another presentation since Aldo just did it until we made our recommendation to the board, and then Aldo could be available for any questions that the board had.
And just so we know, they're having an insurance committee meeting next week. Everybody has the most recent information, and then we can decide then what we would recommend to the board.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well then I'm going to go to my next item on the agenda, which is a finance meeting update. Basically,
Hold on 1 second, Carl. Trustee Kreis, is there a problem with that? Are you concerned about something that you wanted us to bring up?
No, I was just expecting a presentation where we could have dialogue tonight, because I figured everybody would have questions. We always do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. It kind of sounded like you had something specific.
No.
Okay.
And I appreciate all the work that you've put into it, Trustee Crowley.
all right. So I'm going to go to my next item then. At the last finance meeting, we discussed revenue sources, grants, processes, and procedures that the auditor had recommended. We'll be sending out a more detailed information on what was discussed as part of that meeting. As part of that, I've also added now 2 additional items to my agenda. One that has to deal with new revenue, capital asset policy, and investment policy. Just as a quick question, Are the documents on board docs? Can you see them? The capital asset policy, investment policy?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Well, I'm having technical difficulties because I cannot pull it up on my phone. All right, so let me talk about the new revenue that we discussed in the Finance Committee. There was basically two different areas that we came up with potential revenue sources. One was $50 for doing a transfer, and another $1 minimum charge for using a credit card to help defer the costs. Does anybody have an issue or concern about those numbers?
I don't have an issue with the proposal. My concern is based on the memo that we got, it shows that we spent a lot of money last year in processing credit cards.
Yes, we did.
So is $1 enough to cover those costs? Because if this is for water bill payments, I mean, we're not in the business to make money, so is it are we gonna still be losing money next year by processing them at only $1 each?
Well, if I could jump in, if I could just jump in with my comments, because I had a comment about this, and there was a long discussion about this, and unfortunately, Sandy and Kathy, you weren't able to attend the meeting. And my concern was that we do this as a convenience for the residents so that we can get the revenue quickly with the credit card. And if they pay by their checking account with the e-check, like I do, there's no charge.
Right.
So Don and Don, jump in because you were part of this discussion as well, and you can see it. You can jump in from your standpoint as a business owner and how you handle this. I don't want to penalize the residents anymore. So many of them are just struggling.
I don't disagree. My concern is that if, it was I think $35,000 in fees that we paid. I think that was the fee, that was close to the fee that Treasurer Britton told us that we paid for credit card processing. Maybe we take that option out and just let it be like a bank transfer. Right.
And I thought one of the items we discussed was going back to the processor and seeing if they could negotiate. We could negotiate downward the fee, possibly educating the residents to use e-checks instead. I mean, I think we'd have to have some kind of a rollout where you would let them know, like if you're going to pay your property tax bill, it shows you when you go to the treasurer's website. If you pay with a credit card, you're going to be charged this. If you do an e-check, there's no charge. So before we would do anything, I think those two things would have to happen. And Don, jump in and talk about what you do with the credit card processor.
Well, just basically that the credit card companies are really good about in rate creep. They give you a certain rate when they start, and of course their costs go up. I'm not saying they should never increase rates, but little by little they always sneak in a little extra rate increase every 6 months or every year, and every so often you have to shop the market and find a vendor who's maybe you don't necessarily want, but you're able to get a lowball offer and talk to your credit card processor that you do want and say, hey, guys, these guys are going to give me a better deal, and if you don't give me a good deal, I'm going to jump. And you have to keep them honest. If you don't, then you're just going to basically you find out that the rates were higher than you thought they were, and you just have to try to do that every year or two, every couple of years at least, to try to make this thing a little more palatable.
I guess I'm just with the amount of money. I had no idea how much it cost us. Losing that much money from our water fund just makes it more expensive for everybody else too. So I had no idea. I pay with my debit card online, so I totally get it. I never even thought of it being a charge. And you're right, I did miss the meeting. I was at another meeting with the village for the finance committee meeting. I'm hoping that this month it's back to schedule on the regularly scheduled date, because I do enjoy going to them. Very informative.
I have a question. So our current PSN, do they offer us the option of credit card versus e-check?
They do offer us they offer us debit cards and credit cards. People can do e-checks through a different mechanism. So,
How would we do e-check? Not through PSN?
Through PSN, I don't think so. I can ask. I don't think so. We talked to them a couple of years ago, and that wasn't something that we could do through them. I did contact a company, had a conversation with a company on Monday, a little bit of a webinar, and then I also contacted the merchant services people that currently do our vehicle stickers through Fifth Third Bank, because they are very reasonable. So I put a call into them, and they're going to call me back, and that's what we're doing. We're shopping around, just like Trustee Business said.
Oh, so we may not be using PSN then if we can get somebody who would give us a better rate?
Well, you know what? I would love to keep using PSN. What I'd love to do is do what Trustee Killelea and Trustee Kreis suggested, which is get other prices and have PSN match them, because it is a pain in the neck to transfer services.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but what would the other, if we kept PSN, if they don't have the technology to offer our residents e-check, what was the other mechanism that we would do to pay by e-check?
Well, they might have it. We might not have signed up for it. I'm going to check with them. That's not something we have right now, but you can sign up for a gamut of services.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think, I mean, I kind of agree with Marion, but I also see Sandy's point of view, kind of on the fence. I just did a transaction not too long ago that said that you could do, and I don't remember what I was paying. You could either do e-check or pay by credit card, but if I paid by credit card, they were adding, my real estate license. I was paying by credit card, that was the only option I had, and they charged me 3.5%, not $1.
Right.
3.5% of the transaction, so $1 is pretty reasonable. But still, I don't know what we should do. I don't want to charge the resident $30,000 is a lot of money.
And just think, if I can say something, just think about this. If you pay your water bill 4 times a year, every quarter, then you're paying $4 extra to charge. I mean, versus if we can get e-check in there, then they don't have to pay anything. I think that's reasonable.
And I do mine by e-check, and I don't know how I set it up many, many moons ago, but there is an option for them to do it, and there's no extra charge to the bill, or there's no extra charge.
Right, but you have to set it up.
Will you text him?
Versus just going online and paying. You do have to set it up. You're right about that. I'm trying to see if there's another mechanism that they can do it right when they go to pay.
Right. So can we wait till you have some idea about if we can get our rates lowered and then can reconsider it? I mean, $4 a year doesn't sound much to me. I mean, I personally am good with that, but I think we should try to lower the rates as much as we can too. So you're doing that already, Treasurer Britton. So I mean, I would use that process and see if we can save both ways, lower our costs and maybe get a little extra revenue.
Okay, yes, we'll do that. We just brought this up for discussion, so yes, we can either table it or just delay this while we're getting more information from our merchant service.
Plan.
All right, I have to agree with everybody and all the points that were raised. So thank you very much. The $50 transfer, for transfer, did anybody have any issues with that?
10%.
I don't know that I'm in favor of that. I remember when the board brought that up, there was damn near anarchy and insurrection when that was brought up. So I don't know that we should start charging them the fee. What we had talked about last year was charging an expedition fee if somebody walked in the door and said, I need this tomorrow, or I need this in 3 days, instead of bringing it to the village in enough time to process it timely, instead of, a rush, like a rush fee.
A rush fee is one of the things that we were thinking about adding, but the $50 will help facilitate the whole process.
But one of the things that I was not on the board yet, Kathy, I don't think you were either, because you were.
I wasn't either, but I was.
But I recall somebody saying that there were promises made when we went home rule, that's one of the things we wouldn't do. Is my recall poor, or?
That was for a transfer tax, I believe.
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't remember that as one that was sort of involved with the home rule process a little bit, but I guess there's a website that shows the suburbs in Cook County what they do with the transfer tax, and I don't know how they do it, but there's probably at the very least 100 suburbs that have a transfer tax.
And it's a percentage of the sale.
But then they don't charge an administrative fee. There's a few suburbs left that do charge an administrative fee. There's a lot of suburbs who, not to put another thing out there, but there's a ton of suburbs who actually charge an inspection fee. So they are inspecting properties before it's sold somehow. But either way, there's at least 100 people are paying at least $50 when they walk in the door, and probably more, because the stamp is much more than, it's based on the value of the property. So I don't think I'm worried too much about a $50 charge. I think compared to all the other fees that you pay at closing, that's nothing.
Yeah, the other suburbs usually charge anywhere, if I remember right, from that site that you're talking about, is like 1% of the sales to 3% of the sale value of the property.
Right, exactly, Carl.
So a $50 transfer is at the bottom of the bottom. But we need to do something.
Anyone else?
I don't know, what does everybody else think? Karen, Sandy?
We had a lengthy discussion about this. I hate to put any more burden on the residents. I do, although I see the need. I know there's a lot of work involved with the when they do a transfer stamp. It's a lot of behind the scenes work. I don't want the realtors coming out after us and saying you lied, even though this is not a transfer tax, which would have to go through referendum. So I don't know. I don't know.
Well, should we, instead of $50, should we try to lessen the blow to $25?
No. Well, what I'll do is I'll put it on the agenda for next week at $50, and you can vote on it and make the decision then which way you want to go.
Okay.
All right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then, what's the other thing I had on there? I had our first communication meeting with Alan and Sharon. We
Wait,
determined
the first what meeting?
communication meeting. Remember I brought that up? About how communication should work within the village, how the board should transfer whatever information that they have, that they want to tell the village, how we would communicate that through our website, email, phones, code red, etc. Okay? So we met, kind of came up with a preliminary idea on how we want to do it. At first, when we launch our plan, it's going to be for just internal communications, meaning, board, department head, employee kind of situations that we want to project out to the village. We won't be taking anything external at this point in time, meaning like from the park district or the library or the church or something like that.
So I I'm not quite sure I understand, so are you guys wanna take over whenever something happens in the village, we notify you and you'll put it out in every media form?
No, we're gonna set up a process.
Sounds like a plan.
We're gonna set up a process or a procedure for you to follow, so there'll be no confusion on what avenue or traffic, or how the information should travel out to the community. Okay? And I believe,
No, wait, hold on, I'm not done yet, sorry. So with regards to like emergency notifications, when the fire department, the police department, and public works put out information to the residents, you want us to follow a different process? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know if it'll be a different process, just that we document that process. It'd be the same thing like when the water main breaks. How does the village find out what's happening? Or if a tree limb falls down and takes out the power line? That type of thing. So it's all those different areas, just to figure out how we should broadcast that. Or if we're doing something and we know it's gonna happen ahead of time, like when we're flushing the fire hydrants. It would be great to be able to notify everybody in that particular area, you know, in advance, and maybe the other areas that might be connected to that particular street where we flush the hydrants, so that if they won't worry about seeing, oh my God, there's water there. You know what I'm
I
saying?
thought Public Works already had a notification tool for that. I thought they already used.
Like I said, we're gonna discuss it and look at it and try to and make sure that our communication, which has been wishy-washy, maybe would be a good description of it, on more than one occasion, to just straighten it out, make sure that it is being communicated properly. All right, that's it for me.
Good. You're a little mouthy tonight.
Yes, I was.
Okay, moving on, Trustee Keavy.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, we're talking about the alley vacation. We've got 2 alley vacation requests. I believe they are both scheduled for the, we have to go before the zoning board. Is that correct, Clerk Moskville?
Both of the meetings have been posted for public hearings on the Maria Quinones next week.
Yes, next week.
Wait, time out. Our zoning board hearing is not until Monday the 19th, but I was told that these are going to be put on, there's going to be a special hearing at 6 p.m. next Wednesday?
That's correct.
Oh, with who? The zoning board?
No, public.
No, it's a public hearing.
No, public hearing.
Oh, it's a public.
Yes.
The ordinances are also on the agenda, I believe.
All right, I'm confused. Does alley vacation require a zoning board hearing or just a public hearing?
No, it requires,
hearing.
does not require a zoning board.
Public hearing, that's it.
Awesome, that's fabulous. So then, I do recall that we had seen, the board was given a copy of a draft ordinance for the alley that's just north of 147th Street between Avers and Springfield. The ordinance has not been finalized yet because we are still waiting for either a legal description or a PIN number or a survey. We're waiting for something to that effect. However, we still don't have the ordinance for the Kilpatrick residential alley. And I would really like the board to be able to have that before 5 o'clock next Monday, so they have sufficient time to review it in case there's any questions or any corrections need to be made.
Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, that will.
Okay, so if we could get it by like Friday, that would be great. And then that will give us some time to take a look at it. Okay, so I just want to confirm with all the trustees here that nobody has any questions, issues, concerns about either of these requests. Don?
No, that's everything's good.
Why are you picking on Don?
Huh?
Why are you picking on Don?
And it would be helpful to have the ordinances in sufficient time to read.
Right. Well, the Attorney Valadez, if you could dig out the Bartolini's ordinance and just send that along so we could take a look at it again. I realize it's not complete, but it should be there should be some standard boilerplate language in there that will also be in the Kilpatrick ordinance, correct?
Exactly,
A little bit of
yes. It'll be the same.
Okay.
The only difference will be the property description.
Okay, I don't remember what meeting this was first initially brought up, but I know that the Bar Lady ordinance is out there on board docs somewhere, I just don't know how to find it.
It is on the,
Oh,
there's a public hearing agenda for October 14th, and that ordinance is attached to the agenda.
oh, it is already, okay. Okay, so everyone can go on board docs and at least look at that one. But if you could get us the Kilpatrick one, that would be great. Sandy, do you have any questions or issues or? Nope. Okay. All right, then I think we're good to go.
She wants to know when she gets to go on vacation.
I think we all are entitled to a vacation.
Sadly, my summer vacation came to a screeching halt last weekend.
No.
Yeah.
What else you got?
At this time, I don't have anything. Oh, except let me back up. We are in full-blown Fall Fest scarecrow mode. So, to any families or businesses or anybody out there listening, if you would like to build a scarecrow and display it in our Rain Ready Community Garden, you are welcome to. Please contact myself or the building department, and we will make sure that we reserve a spot for you, and we will provide you with an orange sign, so that you can identify your scarecrow. Please let me know. I'm going to be sending a notice out to all of our businesses tomorrow, inviting them to participate as well. I'm going to be passing out, on Facebook, on the village website. I'm going to contact the newspaper. I'm going to go to the Park District Trunk or Treat to let everybody know that we're still going to have a mini, smaller version of our Fall Fest. We still would like to invite all of our entire community to come out to the Rain Garden on Sunday, October 25th, and take a look at all the scarecrows. We still will have treats for the kids. We'll have goodie bags, we'll have kindness rocks for them to take home, and pumpkins. And we would like everyone to come look.
Fantastic.
Creative scarecrows. And that's all.
All right. Trustee Killelea.
Thank you, Mayor. First item I have is to approve the hiring of Calumet City Plumbing to install 380 radios and registers. The Calumet City was the company we hired 10 years ago to install over 3,000 meters. They did an excellent job, very good rapport with the residents. They have to do what they can do because if there's plumbing issues or meters are in the house. We've already installed through the Public Works Department a little over 600 meters, I believe, and that's all that we can do. So I'd like to make a motion to approve Cal City Plumbing as the low bidder to install the radios and registers.
What was the total cost? You got that in front of you? I don't.
Let's see. I don't know.
Well, it's under $40,000.
Say it again?
It says on the,
Oh yeah, you're right.
on the agenda, it says 40,000.
Okay,
So
you are right.
So
Stay at 40,000 on the agenda.
Right. Okay.
I'll second it.
all right. So there's
I already did second it.
all right. So there's a motion by Trustee Killelea and a second by Trustee Kavey for Cal City Plumbing to install how many meters
380.
at the cost of
Or $40,000.
$40,000. Thank you. All right. Is there any discussion?
I guess the only question I have is, do we have sufficient funds to cover this? And I guess Treasurer Britton opted off, so I'm assuming.
It's from the capital bond money.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Roll call, please. Clerk Moscow.
Trustee Killelea.
Aye.
Trustee Kane.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Ivan.
Yes, aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Second thing we have is we need approval to hire Robinson Engineering for performing engineering services for water main replacement along 147th from Cicero to Kilpatrick. This is a super leaky main that always, every winter gives Public Works fits. They're always on there for weeks at a time. Now, according to Attorney Valdez, we can, also Mr. Richlicki, we can legally access funds from the TIF money to do that. We just don't know at the present time, I don't believe, if we can pay for the whole water main with TIF money. That's something that's out there. Originally, our intent was to try to get this replaced definitely before winter, but there was, legally we had to tie down some things. And also Robinson has made us aware that IEPA and IDOT, we have to get permits from, that takes a lot of time. So we won't get this, I don't think, without any question, we won't get the main in until the earliest would be the spring or maybe later. But we need Robinson to do the specs on the water main so that we can go out to bid and they can do their engineering services. So I'd like to ask for approval to hire Robinson to do that.
Is there a second? Okay. Trustee Caveney again for the second. Is there any other discussion? Okay, roll call please. Clerk Moskowitz.
Trustee Killelly.
Aye.
Trustee Caveney.
Aye.
Trustee Crowley.
Aye.
Trustee Ivan.
Aye.
Trustee Kreis.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, I don't want to bring up this word cannabis, but I think, Attorney Valdez gave us an updated ordinance, which was much better, but I think there's a couple things that need to be talked about. One is that the residents, how the residents' property line is measured, I think needs to be changed to, not from the building to the property line. And also the distance needs to be reduced. Basically, on most of our businesses now, we have equivalent of an alley between the property and the residents, and that can stay, and as long as we make sure that happens. We don't need 75 feet, but also we need to change that from the property line, because if we do it from the building, from the house, if somebody has a 75-foot backyard, it could potentially be right on their doorstep. So I would like that changed to just allow for just a slight space between the business and the residential property. Does anybody have any problem with that?
I think that's fine. I mean, again, we're trying not to discourage, completely discourage.
Right. We don't need a bunch of property. We don't need a bunch of space. Just the space we already have. We just want to make sure, on most businesses, we want to make sure that continues. That's about all that happens. Librarian Churches. So there was some discussion last time about putting Librarian Churches on there. I've done some research on that. The library basically will make any business property pretty much will make 500 feet. That shouldn't be a big problem. Churches, if we do the churches, it may be a little bit of a problem. From St. Chris, certainly 500 feet from the parking lot. Would be if we do it from the parking lot, or St. Stephen's if we do it from the building. St. Stephen's is a little bit of a problem because I don't know how close the property behind Mr. Submarine is. That could potentially be I don't know, but it could potentially be a spot for a dispensary. Also, St. Christopher, not from the building so much, but from the parking lot. Of course, that could be within 500 feet. That could knock out some business properties that I don't know if they're potentials, but they won't be out there. So, what do we think? We want to try to leave. The library would be good. Churches. What anybody feel one way or the other on that?
Trustee, I would just say for the board's information that under the liquor code, the distance between a bar and a church is 100 feet. And I would also that in cannabis, there is no consumption on the premises. So I think there's a significant distinction between having people who have consumed alcohol coming out of the bar being 100 feet away from a church and a cannabis situation, which they're not allowed to advertise with leaves or any kind of signage that would show it's a cannabis place, and in which there is no consumption of cannabis on the premises.
Right, so what do you think should happen there? In other words, if we put churches in there, you would want to reduce the distance? Is that what you're proposing?
I would say that because there's no consumption on the premises, that there's no need to put churches in there. That really there's not going to be anyone coming out of that establishment intoxicated.
I concur.
Board?
Actually, mine was more from a respect aspect for putting the churches in there. We've got schools and daycare, and I think really just out of respect, we should include churches, even if it's 100 feet.
Trustee Hyman.
I have to disagree with the 75 foot based on the property line, because that just eliminates too many businesses, potential places for businesses to be purchased by them.
Can you hear him?
No.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I have a hard time with the 75 foot rule based on the property line, because that cuts down way too many businesses from being reused for that particular activity. I mean, it's not like it's a bar, you know, it's just a store.
Anyone else?
Anybody else?
But what's the required distance of a bar to a residence?
There is none.
There is none.
It's only by the village code. We have in Midlothian, we have bars operating within 40 feet of someone's bedroom window. I'm not saying
Bar to a school is, what did you say, Nick?
we have bars operating within 45 feet of.
But from a school, I mean,
500.
we measured that already. What is that?
500 from a school.
100 feet from the school.
How much?
500.
No.
Yeah, 500.
From a bar?
What
Yes.
was the 100-foot
No,
rule?
from
the
the
school.
bars.
It's 100 feet.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, it's
a liquor store. I was thinking about
And
liquor store.
that is from building to building, right?
Correct. For the liquor code, yes.
Okay, whatever, would we be okay with that?
I would be, if it followed the liquor code.
Yes.
Okay, all right, two other things, hopefully. Parking, so I did a lot of research on what cannabis dispensaries in suburbs. Most of them, and this goes on to the next point too, probably 80 to 90% of them are in OI districts. They're out in nowhere, a lot of them. They're not, half of them aren't even on a main street. But all of them have something in common. It's the other ones are in shopping centers, and there's only one that's really a business district, and that's in Worth. So the thing that was pretty much in common was all of them had a lot of parking, probably in excess of our code. And so I don't want to make a judgment on that, but I do want to ask if the site plan review committee has the power to recommend that a business incorporate more parking into their site.
Yes, absolutely, trustee. That is the whole point of a special use permit, is that it allows, an alternative name for it is conditional use, which means that a special use allows a municipality to put conditions on a particular property, being sensitive to where it's located. So yes, the special use, the site plan or the zoning board of appeals could always add additional requirements because of a particular piece of property.
Okay, thank you. Last, we're going to do the sort of sensitive one here. Springfield School, if we're, the property south of right way, is vacant, and it has a bid on it from a cultivator. So Springfield School, roughly, if you're doing building to building, is 875 feet from that property. For the park, the baseball field, it's roughly 150 to 200 feet from the Midlothian baseball field. So according to what our ordinance says, it would be okay, except for one thing, that the only cannabis business that can be in a business district is the dispensary. Everything else is going to be in the OI district. I did go to the OI district and do a tour of it. The mayor is absolutely right in that the only vacant property that actually is even usable is actually on our agenda, that they want a tax incentive, and that's a very nice property. But there really isn't any other property that's even accessible. The only vacant lot is the old Gilbert chemical plant, and as far as I can tell, that's not for sale. So if we do say that no other business, cannabis business can be in the business district, then basically, essentially, there won't be any cultivator there. Now, the cultivator, Attorney Valdez is very strong on this, that if a cultivator can be next to or close to a dispensary, it's an advantage for the dispensary because they can get their product quicker. If they happen to run out, they don't have to worry about it. Some of these businesses, of course, we know Windy City is a chain. It has three or four properties, and if they had something local, it would be a big help to them. So Attorney Valdez is very strong that we should, definitely in the ordinance, as you see, the ancillary means that if a cultivator under different ownership is next to a dispensary, we are allowing that. Now, we are not allowing a cultivator other than that in the town, except for the OI district, which is not going to happen. I can speak to the property. I just want to make a quick comment on the property that it's on. Everybody, I think, it was on the mindset that should be a retail property. I do disagree with that because to make that a really a valuable property, it would have to have a exit and entrance onto 145th so that customers could access the light and make a turn south. Otherwise, it's difficult to go over 4 lanes of traffic. I'm not even sure IDOT even allows that because right now the exit and entrance do not allow that. So I think that with traffic from a retail business that would be a good business or a restaurant, there would be considerable traffic on 145th. That, again, is sort of against what we want to do. There's a lot of children at certain times. There's a lot of traffic, in the morning and the afternoon. And especially in the summertime when there's Midlothian baseball, I don't think that's necessarily the best thing to do. I think, if we had another type of business, office building, or maybe this business, it could be more beneficial than if we let a retail space that would create a lot of unwelcome traffic. That's what I have to say. What does the board think?
I agree.
I'm a little confused about a comment you made a few sentences before you ended. Did you say that the new proposed ordinance is only going to allow not a dispensary,
Cultivator.
cultivator in OI?
Correct.
Attorneys? That's right.
That's correct, yes.
What we have right now is the only dispensary can be in business district. No other cannabis business can be in a business district.
Okay, I totally misunderstood that. I thought that we were going to allow a cultivator to be in the business district.
Only as an ancillary business to a dispensary. Because the state legislature discussed the issue brought by the trade, in other words, brought by the industry to the Illinois legislators, saying that we want the bill to allow dispensaries to be able to have a craft cultivator next to each other, owned by the same people. Can we have that allowed? And the legislature said, yes, we will allow that, separate books, separate physical divide between the dispensary and the cultivator.
That means that the potential cultivator who wanted to go to 145th and Pulaski would not be allowed to.
No, not under the current ordinance.
Okay. Well, the board is aware that there's property on 147th Street that's been recently listed that might work out for a dispensary and a cultivator to be right next door to each other. John, I meant to you an email. You were going to do a measurement?
I did, and it works. The old Moran that's up for sale,
Yes.
Moran is fine. It's not close to any other property that, no church, school, anything. It's fine. It can do, Moran can do anything they want.
Although they might have a parking issue there.
Well, that could be.
Mudnicky next door is up for sale as well. They're both of them.
Yes, the shop is, yes.
Yeah, so there's plenty of parking there.
Okay, but what about this issue? Okay, with, the only problem here is if we opened up and we let the cultivator in and the business district, let's say we said B3, that means the cultivator could, the rest of these 3 licenses could go anywhere in town that is a B3 business district.
I don't have a problem with that.
So what you're saying is the way the ordinance is drafted, and I may have misunderstood it when I read it, is that a dispensary can go in any of the business districts.
Right.
A cultivator can only come into a business district if it is owned by and associated with a dispensary. Otherwise, all cultivators have to go in OI.
That's correct.
Well, ancillary, what does that mean? I want to make sure I'm crystal clear. Ancillary means that it's next to it, or can it be owned by the same company and be in a different location?
It can be owned by it. It means that if it is next door or owned and feeds that dispensary, then it may be in a B1, a B2, or B3 district. But it could not be an independent one that is just has an agreement with a dispensary. And again, I want to be clear that the reason that the legislature did that is because the industry came to them and said, this is what's good for business. You're licensing one person, and that person is regulated, and they're getting the product right at the site that it's selling. And they tried to make a comparison of a brewery, of a craft brewer. They make it and they sell it right on the site. And the industry said that's good for the industry, and the legislature said, we think that's better too than having, marijuana being transported all over the place. If we can keep it from moving, we only have one place to inspect. And so Midlothian having that provision, that some municipalities don't, provides an additional incentive for someone to bring a dispenser.
Right. We have incentive as far as we're going to be on, our dispensary is probably going to be on a nice busy street with lots of traffic. Most places don't have that. And this would be an additional advantage that Midlothian could tout, because there's going to be a lot of competition. Right now there's only 25 new licenses, but I have a funny feeling that there's going to be a lot more licenses fairly soon. And, we have a lot of dispensaries fairly close, so we have to work hard. If we want the dispensary, we have to sort of try to give ourselves a competitive advantage. But I don't know what the board thinks of my idea. And Trustee Crowley, I'd be interested in hearing from you.
Well, thank you for that, Don. I actually, it's a lot to absorb. I'm not sure I understand all of what Attorney Valdez said, but I'm certainly going to consider it.
And just for the board's information, that the main reason, if not the only reason, that it was not proposed to have the craft growers or the other industries other cannabis businesses outside of OI was simply because of a determination by some board members and the building superintendent, which is that we did not want to give up our retail sites for something so large. The thought being that we have so few scaled retail opportunities in Midlothian now that we didn't want to give one up for a cultivator. It just doesn't bring back the tax bang for the buck.
Attorney, can I ask you a question though? So what you're saying essentially though is that if there's not a dispensary in town first, the cultivator can't come in.
Correct.
I mean, they may be affiliated, but the cultivator can't locate there if there's not a dispensary. So essentially, the dispensary has to come in at the same time as the cultivator.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions? Comments?
No.
And that's it.
All right,
Thank
cool.
you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Crowley.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple things tonight. I just wanted to thank everybody who participated in Junk in the Trunk a week ago Saturday. We had a great turnout. We had a lot of good vendors. We had a lot of shoppers. It was a little chilly and the wind was, kicked up a couple times, but it was a really good event. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I believe the State Community Policing Committee is looking at scheduling their next Junk in the Trunk, so stay tuned. Community Policing has had a very busy month. They also did their TV raffle last week. Congratulations to Mr. Hood, who won the 55-inch TV. And last but not least, the Safety Committee is up for their toy drive. That is all I have this evening, sir.
Okay. Attorney Valdez.
Yes, just again briefly, there was a moves court proceeding on Monday evening, in which it was discussed. We have an issue with some properties that have been built, structures that have been built in the flood path by St. Christopher in Natalie Creek. The only reason I am alerting the board to this is because there may be several properties that maybe have to be addressed, but the village has gone forward with one property owner who put a substantial investment in a gazebo that is literally on the bank of Natalie Creek, requested a building permit after illegally installing it. The hearing officer directed that individual to the village to get a permit. The building superintendent determined that a permit could not be issued simply because it is in a flood path, and therefore it is in violation of both state and federal regulations for building structures in a flood path. So therefore, the individual was told that they would have to tear down the gazebo. And maybe other situations like that. So I just wanted to keep the board informed of that, because obviously when they're talking about that investment in materials and time, people may get so I want to give the boards a heads up that the village is enforcing the code with regard to structures in the flood path behind St. Chris. That's it.
Thank you. And I'm so sorry, Trustee Craig. Alan just had to remind me that we started.
Well, I was going to jump in, you know me.
I know you would have. I'm so sorry. Trustee Craig.
No apologies necessary. Kevin, can you do something about our dog?
He was probably quiet the whole meeting.
Small but mighty. We had a very successful recycle event on Saturday. Exceeded everyone's expectations. The only problem was that we had residents lined up at 8 a.m. with their e-waste. And the sheriff's truck closed the back about 10:30 on Saturday. But I think it was hugely successful. I especially want to thank Jerry Gillis Sr. and the St. Christopher's Knights of Columbus who came out and volunteered, a number of Bremen High School seniors who came out and volunteered, Keep Midlothian Beautiful members that also volunteered their time, and a special thank you to Kristen Ramirez in Public Works and our own Recycle Rita Zarni. I don't have the counts on the pounds for textiles, but the sheriff was at capacity early, e-waste, shredding, and pharmaceuticals. Oh, and the Lions Club, thank the Lions Club for coming out as well, collecting eyeglasses and hearing aids, and use again for the textiles. So, Trustee Crowley, you were there, you saw all the cars in the morning early, but it really, I think for our maiden voyage, I think it went very smooth. And we're talking about our next event, which I know the residents would like us to have next week, which is not going to be possible, but we are talking about hosting another event. I'm still receiving phone calls about what can I do with my e-waste and my TV. So that is the update on that event, and we had good weather. And the only other thing I want to bring to the board's attention is I did get an update from Cardno on the rain garden, and it's really specific about what they found and what they've done, and they're going to come out one more time. They did bring to our attention the knotweed, the Japanese knotweed. With any of you who have, Kathy, you know about the knotweed. For those of us who have spent hours out there doing maintenance, we've always pulled knotweed, and Cardno said that the knotweed could become an issue. And typically we have volunteers working on the garden dealing with the knotweed every year. We've not had that luxury this year. So if we don't do something about the knotweed, it's not in the rain garden itself, but it's on the borders. So I asked Cardno for an estimate, and I also asked OAI, could it be covered by the grant? And they've got a lot of moving parts this year with the grant, and she suggested, I believe they're going to have the grant again next year, and they may be able to address the knotweed next year. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on that.
Karen, I have been out to the garden 2 or 3 times this year, and I was cutting and spraying the knotweed that was over in that executive area there.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have time to tackle the big bunch of knotweed that is grown over in the farther northeast corner.
Right, closer to the parking lot.
Right. That's gotten to be so big and thick, I would need like a hatchet or a machete to get through there. I was thinking of, over the summer, I was thinking of trying to hack it down and spray it, but my concern is that right next to that, right adjacent to that big plot of knotweed is one of the gardens that had been planted. So I think the only way to get rid of the knotweed is to kill it with some sort of chemical, but we would have to make arrangements to transplant some of the stuff that's in that garden out of the way before we do that. So,
and I'd actually like to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because if I can just tell you what they sent me about this, Cardno said one of the best ways to treat this weed is to mow it during the growing season and then spray it with a systematic herbicide after the leaves have grown back. This uses some of the carbohydrates stored in the plant, where then the herbicide is more effective. And that's how the entire email was about what they've done at the garden. Very technical. They know what they're doing. So I think I would rather have, I think you're right, we'd have to transplant things, but I'd rather have somebody do it who knows what they're doing.
oh, cut that big hunk stuff down? Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I know last year when we were out there dealing with it, we had piles of it, and we were swearing at it.
Right. Keep us posted, and we can get a bunch of yard crashers together and get over there and relocate whatever needs to be relocated into other islands.
It may not happen until next year.
That's fine. But one thing, could you ask them, whenever they're going to come back and do their final cutting, to cut it back, could you ask them to do it after Halloween, not before Halloween?
I will send them an email, but I can't guarantee it because, again, this is, I will ask them, Kathy, I will beg them. but I don't know what their schedule is like.
Okay, well,
So
if they can just tell them that we have an event.
On the 25th.
And I don't want it cut down before then.
Okay. I will send an email, and that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Under my business, I sent everyone an email with a quote from Smithereens to take care of what appears to be a rat problem over in the residential homes around Memorial Park. So I put it on here for your digestion and opinions. You can see through the invoice that they will be installing approximately 50 rodent stations throughout the residential homes, garages, sheds, etc. That's quite a bit. And the total for them to eradicate this problem is, well, it says $5,740 for the first year. And they bill monthly, so you don't get billed until they do the service for that month. So it's not a upfront total cost, but I don't know. I understand it's kind of bad over there, but 57.
If I could just ask a question or just bring up a couple things. I know, I don't know who was on the board, maybe Don and Alan, or we had a problem along Midlothian Creek some years back. And so two things. Does Tom Myatt know about this? Was he brought in about this or made aware of this?
I do not believe he has been. He doesn't typically deal with residential health issues.
Well, I just think the rodent thing, I think, do we have any idea where the source is? Because
that's the problem. He did not identify anything from the park. Trustee Caveney asked me earlier, could not identify anything from the park that would be causing them. The supposition is that it's coming from the creek, but this technician was unable to get in there and verify that. But typically that is where they come from. We had the problem here along Natalie Creek by Subport in the apartments not that long ago. Well, I guess it hadn't been that long ago. And we had to call in an exterminator to get rid of those. So it didn't help, of course, having the restaurant dumpsters and the apartment dumpsters, but they were called in to eradicate them. So, and they did. So, yeah, he couldn't verify where it's coming from, but certainly said that it doesn't appear to be from the park.
And I guess the other thing would be making all of the residents, probably having a letter prepared and delivered to all of the residents, making them aware of the problem if they're not already aware of it, and just steps that they need to take, like no ground feeding of any animals, making sure their garbage cans are sealed tight. I mean, just those types of things, because we all know rats love garbage and dog feces and just things like that we need to make them aware of.
I think
Smithereens, Tom might be able to help with some of that language.
Well, Smithereens would be able to give us that language. I'm sure they have something already prepared for this type of. So, just throwing it out there, is that something we're willing to spend some money on? And
Yes.
because it could be in other places too, and we'd have to go through the same process. But. All right.
I'm in favor of it.
All right, so based on the cost, I'm going to have to put it on the agenda for approval next week. I apologize to the residents that are dealing with this, but it's the cost is warranting of a board vote. So, Maria, if you could put this on the agenda for approval next week.
No problem.
And that is all I have tonight. Clerk Moskal.
Yes, I just have one item tonight, and I did send the board a note about this with some documents, but I received an email on Thursday last week from an individual at Liston and Sandsboats inquiring about the property that we discussed earlier, 14559 Waverly, and asking if the village would consider passing a resolution supporting a 6B tax to file with the county. I believe that Superintendent Weiner appointed this individual my way with questions. Did explain to them that this is a county that they need, and they do require a resolution from the village if they want to apply for it. I told them I would share this information with the board tonight. I also told them that it would be helpful if they had information or plans for what they were intending to do. And Mr. Yip responded to my email Monday this week and said, thank you. We are putting your package in the village for your discussion, which we hope to have to you shortly. So I received that. I was not aware that this was the location that would potentially be considered for a dispensary, but it sounds like some of you are. So I am passing along that information, and if you would like me to respond in some other way to Mr. Yip.
No, just need to know what the plan is, so we know it would be worth it for us to proceed with the resolution.
Now, if I could jump in, typically when we do a Class 8, like we've done before, I don't think we've ever done a 6B, but we've done Class 8s. They're usually tied to a redevelopment agreement so that we know that they're going to, like Right Way and Gracie's, that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. I did look, there's 2 pins on that property. I think there's the taxes for one pin for last year was $16,807, and the other pin was $24,292. So there's a lot of property tax. So I just think in order to protect us, we would need to have some kind of a redevelopment agreement so that we know that we're just not going to give them an incentive, and it's for all those years, and we need to make sure that they're going to be creating jobs and generating some kind of revenue for the village.
Yeah, start with the idea, tell us what the idea is, and if it's something that we're interested in, then we'll work on that redevelopment agreement. But I think Ricky Rocket's got a 6B, no?
No, Ricky Rocket's got a Class 8.
Oh.
Yeah, this is the first 6B request I've ever having received.
Yeah.
Me too.
And the issue with the OI is that generally they're not sales tax producing properties. So what do we have? What
Jobs, Kathy.
Jobs. Okay. Jobs. Question,
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with this property. Is this property vacant or abandoned? It's not
It's
abandoned.
vacant right now. It has a 10,000 square foot warehouse and a 2,000 square foot office section. It's very desirable property.
It is. They did.
Whoever's getting this is getting a nice deal. It's not that expensive, and it's very, it's well maintained. I thought originally, hey, maybe, a dispensary cultivator would be there, but it's only 10,000 square feet for the warehouse. But it's a very desirable property, and, I think it's only been on the market since, it's been on the market since, I believe, the fall of 2019. So, I think we can ask for something there because I think that's a good solid property.
Okay, and it's important to note, when I was reading through this 6B information sheet that Clerk Moskell shared with us, there is a significant difference between the applicant doing new construction versus doing remodeling. My understanding is that if they're doing remodeling, their tax reduction, the tax reduction is based on their assessment. So they're assessed at 10% instead of 20%. And from my understanding is that if it's new construction, the whole assessment is reduced. If it's a remodel, it's only that portion, the increased assessment based on the increased value based on the remodeling is only reduced, not the whole tax bill. I mean, not the whole tax.
That's something that we'll have to look into if we get to that point, but let's find out what they want to do first, right? I mean, I think we're putting the cart before the horse.
Kathy, I think that's the way the Class 8 is as well.
Closing the barn door before the, no. right, anything else?
Yeah, just one other thing, and this is more of an FYI because I just received this today, but the board will recall back in November or December, we were approached by an attorney representing the owner of a portion of Mid Oak Plaza asking us to reconsider extending the Class 8 for the Walgreens property. And we told them all the things they were proposing were basically regular maintenance items we would expect anyway of anyone to do, so sorry. Joel has reached out to me again. He tried to call and then emailed and said he's trying to reach me to discuss this issue again. So I will call him and tell him that our position is the same. If they have some plans or something they would like to share, happy to pass them along to the board. That is all I have tonight.
Thank you, sir. All right, seeing there's no further business to come before the board, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you all so much. Be safe.